Before we begin, I just need to say that the footage in this video was provided by Bandai Namco, as no capture was permitted during the event. So unfortunately, some of the really cool things I talk about may not always be perfectly represented on screen. Now, on to the preview.
Tragedy must be averted. And for that, I need your help.
Elden Ring Nightreign is not a battle royale. Not that you ever thought it was, but as a former battle royale enjoyer, I can't help but compare the white knuckle moments I get when the storm closes in on me in those last gripping moments of a half-hour-long session of a Fortnite match to the nail-biting bits where I'm desperately trying to outrun the encroaching circle and make it to a life-saving site of grace in Nightreign. PvP elements are completely absent in Nightreign, though not missed one bit. Still, you'll drop into a map with a squad, start from nothing, and spend your time ransacking the map to hopefully power yourself up for the final battle. From the risk-reward moments of looting a church for one more flask charge as the circle closes in, to the wave of sadness you feel when experiencing a devastating loss after taking so much time building yourself up, it's hard not to see the Battle Royale influences. But after 4 hours of playing the upcoming stress test build, I'm ecstatic to report that Nightreign probably won't tarnish the Elden Ring name. When beginning a match, you'll be given a choice to pick one of 4 available classes, though there will be a total of 8 when Nightreign launches. The current options will be the all-arounder Wilder, the speedy glass cannon Duchess, the tanky Guardian, and the magic-wielding Recluse. Each class has its own strengths and weaknesses, of course, but in my time with this build, I found that the most fun class to play was the Duchess, thanks to her powerful abilities and swift and nimble dodges. I also spent some time with the Recluse, which was incredibly powerful, but I ran out of FP quite often, and with no FP flasks, they aren't in this Elden Ring, she'll definitely be one of the harder classes to play effectively. Each class comes equipped with a leveling path, which I'll talk about more in a moment, but more importantly, they all have unique skill and ultimate abilities. The Duchess, for example, has an incredibly powerful skill that repeats the last 1.5 seconds of damage an enemy has just taken, and it has a short cooldown to boot. Also, it's not just your damage, it's everyone's damage. So while you're flipping around the battlefield landing attacks, you're also waiting for huge health spikes to try and capitalize on doubling that damage. It's great stuff. Other skills also match the class's predetermined role. The Wilder can do a blast attack to try to land big damage. The Guardian can create a large shield, both negating damage and reviving fallen allies, while the Recluse can curse an enemy, granting all attackers HP and FP bonuses. So while players can double up classes in a run, it's always a good idea to talk about team strengths and weaknesses to diversify your group. When starting completely fresh, players will find themselves in Nightreign's Roundtable Hold. After matchmaking with 2 other random players, or using a multiplayer password to play directly with your friends, a small cutscene will play and everyone will soar over Limvale, not Limgrave, before landing and beginning their run. A full run of Nightreign lasts around 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how fast you take down the ending bosses. While it's presented as a 3-day cycle, it really boils down to 5 separate phases: Day 1, Night 1, Day 2, Night 2, and the final boss. When Day 1 begins, the map is fully open, and that's when you'll begin exploring and leveling up. Everyone's level 1 at the outset with basic starting gear, save for relics that you're rewarded with at the end of every round that grant you persistent buffs between matches, with better relics being offered for better performances. Once landed, my team always beelined for the first enemy camp we could find for a quick boost of experience to begin leveling up, which was key to defeating stronger foes. From there, you'll decide what your team wants to do by looking at the surrounding area on the map, as it will be littered with points of interest for you to explore. Each point of interest typically comes with predictable rewards. Churches will house a flask charge to increase your overall health potion uses. Castles will feature a mini-boss that drops more powerful gear, and rises, similar to Ranni's Rise found in the lands between, will present a simple puzzle to solve before entering to find even more gear. Just to name a few of many. Where to go in Limvale feels kind of overwhelming at first, but the threat of the ever-closing circle will eventually train your brain to keep on the move. Speed is the name of the game during the day cycle, and luckily everything seems to be built around that. For starters, leveling up is as quick as a button press. As I mentioned, each of the 4 network test classes has a predetermined stat upgrade path. So when you run up to a site of grace to refill your health, FP, and flash charges, you'll also be presented with the leveling menu, which only requires you to press confirm to increase your level. Heck, you may even have enough rooms to level up 3 or 4 times, and with 3 or 4 button presses, you're all done and substantially more powerful. If you have experience in Souls games, the day phases should be a breeze. While searching the map for loot upgrades, I ran into recognizable Elden Ring mobs. My team and I decided to take down a camp, but first we had to fight 3 scattered fire chariots before getting our loot reward. Another time, we climbed to the top of a castle to fight a Godskin noble. That should be scary, but with 2 other tarnished by your side, these mobs and bosses go down pretty fast. Moving around is also way faster than in the original Elden Ring. You won't be clawing the controller anymore since sprinting is moved from circle, or B, to simply clicking the left stick. Sprinting is also about twice as fast as the regular Elden Ring. Fall damage? Nope, none here. Getting down a cliff is easy, and you can even run up walls parkour style or use spirit springs to get around. Besides just rune hunting to raise your level, you'll also be trying to build a character to take on the night bosses. There is no armor, save for shields, in Nightreign. Only 6 weapon slots and 2 amulet slots. How it works is, in typical Elden Ring fashion, you can switch between your left and right-handed weapons and shields on the fly, but everything on your person will give you buffs. For example, let's say you found a Reduvia dagger with high bleed. If you so choose, this could be the start of a bleed build. Now let's say you take down a boss and you're presented with a few other weapons to choose from, and you spot a spear that increases your status effect buildups. You're not going to use that spear, as you'll want to stick with your dagger, but you'll still benefit from the status effect buildup the spear provides just by having it on your person. Think of it almost like a roguelike. Sometimes the synergy of weapon effects and stat upgrades you'll get will build off each other so well that you'll eventually start melting mobs left and right. Other times you'll want something like a poison build, only to keep getting weapons that increase your FP regeneration. Bummer. Weapons aren't the only rewards either. Oftentimes when looting a boss, you'll get to choose a stat upgrade or a modifier. Some of these are less exciting than others, such as a 10% increase in physical damage. Useful, yes. Exciting, not so much. Other times you'll get something really cool like a passive power-up that drops a big poise-breaking lightning strike every time you dodge, or an enemy slowing frost nova every time you begin to sprint. You can work these into your build for some powerful combinations. While the day phases can feel like a walk in the park, it's the night bosses that serve as a real skill check. After the circle has closed enough to end a day phase, a minor Erd tree will appear, signaling that it's time to take on the night boss. Over the hours I played, my team ranged from completely decimating the Night 1 boss to barely scraping by. If someone goes down, you'll revive that person by simply attacking their downed body, with ever-increasing attacks needed the more often they drop. Regardless, the way the Night 1 ends will usually inform you on how the rest of the run will go. I've seen teams come back from barely scraping by the Night 1 boss, but if that boss was tough, you're likely behind in your leveling and you'll have an uphill battle ahead of you to have a chance against the Night 2 boss. Day 2 begins the same way Day 1 did. You'll once again have a full map to explore to level and find better equipment and power-ups. Occasionally, you'll be invaded by a random Margit the Fell Omen who will chase you until he dies or he wipes your party. If your team wipes during the day, you'll drop your runes and respawn at the nearest site of grace. You can recover your runes, but the main thing lost here is time, which was wasted fighting an enemy you didn't get a reward from and wasted having to recover your lost runes. If your team wipes during a night boss, it's game over, and you'll need to begin a new run. By the time Night 2 rears its ugly head, it's time for the final skill check. During our playtest, we were met with 2 different night bosses. You'll either be faced with the Centipede Demon, who is tough but feels somewhat manageable, or 3 Sentinel Knights that really suck. In my 6 or 7 full runs of Nightreign, my team was only able to get past Night 2 just once. Finally, day 3 is incredibly straightforward. There isn't one. Instead, you'll be able to spend your last bit of runes either leveling up or buying consumable items from a vendor, and then you and your team will take on the final boss of the run. As I mentioned before, depending on how far you got in your run, each player will be rewarded with a relic that provides a persistent upgrade for your characters. These can range from simple stat increases to modifiers that will set you on a build path right from the jump. For my preview, this seems to be the only meaningful progression Nightreign has to offer, though I imagine the full game may have more in store for us. Elden Ring Nightreign is a lot of fun. Pulling off victories by the skin of your teeth provides the same sense of accomplishment you felt when taking down some of Elden Ring's toughest foes. The moment a round ended, I couldn't wait to jump back in to see what kind of build I'd get the next time around. And the cheer my team let out when we finally took down that blasted Day 3 boss reminds me why I love the Souls-like genre so much. In its current form, Nightreign could be seen as a little content light, so I'm incredibly interested to see how it shakes out when it releases sometime in 2025. But for now, it's been a few days since I've played Nightreign, and still, it's all I think about. I absolutely can't wait to jump back in for more. For more previews from IGN, make sure to check out our recent hands-on impressions of Dune Awakening and South of Midnight. And for everything else in the world of video games, stick with IGN.